Welcome to the 8 in the Box podcast. Today is Wednesday, February 23rd, post Super Bowl. We had our first Sunday without football, where we talk football, but we're going to talk basketball. This is going to be a run to the Final Four, a run to March Madness on 8 in the Box. So thank you for joining us. It's a Cash Considerations production. I am Dave Sharapan, the Sportsbook Consigliere at SportsBK Consig on the Twitter. And with me today, I'm afraid to look at him. I'm afraid to talk to him, but we're connected. We're here. His name is Brad Howe. He's at Brad Howe 07 on the Twitter. B. Howe, I've called you my quarterback all football season. Are you a point guard or are you a shooting guard? Are you down in the box? Down in the blocks? Where are you on the floor if I'm going to throw you the ball?
Well, it's a great question because I think we're into positionless basketball now, right? There is no point guard, shooting guard down there. So we're just a player, right? I'm a wing. I'm a backcourt. Just give the ball. Just give the ball here. I'll throw it back. You score. Here we go. Give me the ball.
This is what we do. We pass, we shoot, we dribble, and then we got our guy. I mean, he's first off the bench. He's our sixth man, but he's a starter. He's right in the lineup. He just ain't really, I seen this guy move. He could move now. He's a big dude, though. We put him down low. He's playing defense. He's Dan Alexander, producer of the show. And he's in the background, but he's with us as always. He's at Newbie Talks on the Twitter, hosts his own shows, bet on lacrosse, doing all kinds of other things with Wager Talk. But thank goodness you're here, Newbie, making sure that we're connected. We're still good, right? Like we're still good. We're 2 minutes in. We're good.
And I do. I come off the bench and my soul, I'm that guy who gets brought into the game, and the best attribute of my game is I have 5 fouls to give. I'm in there to bang. I'm not in there to pad the stat sheet. I can go 0 from the floor and still get my work done. You need me to take somebody out in the paint, guys. I'm your guy.
See, I think he's off a little bit though, Dave. I think Newbie's the sixth man, but plays at the end of games. So he's in the finishing lineup, which is oftentimes more important, number one. I also think he provides you, as you saw in that great UConn game last night, sometimes you need a guy at the end of the game. It's not always making a shot. Someone slides over and takes a charge and changes the game. I think that's more Newbie's role.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll take every charge, and I'll drop some down too. You need a hard foul, I'm your guy.
That's it. He's a contact guy. He likes the contact. He can take the contact, and he can deliver the foul as well. All right, so we're not going to deliver any fouls today. We're just going to talk some basketball because we're coming off a great football season. We talked about college football all year. Then we morphed into some pro football. We did some props. The show becomes a hockey talk as well. We got a little, mention of some hockey trends and things like that to look for betting wise. And, we might mention that. I love this because we get together every single week, which again, and hopefully we're going to actually do this a little more often as schedules kind of allow, but we kind of just let it fly. I mean, we're kind of that 3-point shooting team like Alabama. We're going to chuck it. Whether they go in or not, that's up to you. But thank you for joining us right here, 8 in the Box, the college basketball edition, as we ride right to the Final Four. B. Howe, bounce pass, pocket pass, right over to you. Take it away, sir. Where are we going?
Good pocket pass terminology to start. Very good. Nice basketball term to mix in. Let's do a couple things. And yes, I actually have some NBA to talk about, and I will throw some NHL in at you as you're a hockey guy. But let's start with college basketball, and let's go back to something we talked about on the last show before we move forward, because this Kentucky team to me is something to keep an eye on here, right? And that's what we'll spend the next couple of weeks doing, is starting to identify teams that have the potential to win a national championship. Kentucky is certainly within that. Remember, we talked last week, you referenced Alabama, and you talked about their three-point shooting prowess, which can be there, and they certainly take a ton of shots. I mean, that's their deal. They're going rim or three, but, man, they are cold from three a lot. Not a great percentage. We talked about how bad their percentage is, but they're volume shooters, so that keeps them in games. I took your advice again.
Does that win in March, though?
It's hard. It's hard. Remember, I told you I worked in the WVU athletic department when John Beeline was here. Very similar. feast or famine from the outside type of shooters. I saw Coach Beilein take West Virginia to the brink of a Final Four, lost in the Elite Eight to Louisville when they needed one basket, couldn't get it to drop. Saw them go to a Sweet 16, get beat on a last-second shot. So yes, it can, but man, that variance is huge, and it is hard to put. If we're talking betting perspective, I think that's hard to back that, Dave.
Yeah.
That's hard to trust that in weird gyms, sometimes big buildings. But we saw Alabama be very good last year, right? They can make a run. So they're just hard to trust. And that's what you saw against Kentucky. I took your advice again. I hope people listening to the program do. Your plus theories on any sport, but college basketball in particular, comes through again. Alabama did it. They were blistering hot to start. You could go in and grab Kentucky as high as plus 4.5 in that game and then ride it out. So you had it. It was right there. That came through. Kentucky ended up winning. The other one to watch, Oscar Tshiebwe did it again. We talked if you could find over 13.5 rebounds at your book, take it, because he's a cash cow when it's 13.5. If it goes to 14.5, look out. Guess what he landed on against Alabama? 14. There it was. So keep an eye on Oscar. Over 13.5 is your target if you can find that prop.
So, I mean, I got to spend basically Saturday watching college basketball. And this is kind of what happens in the book. You know, a lot of guys go on vacation the week after the Super Bowl, the second week after. February is a little bit of a light month as far as people coming to town. So handle's always lower. So when you're working, you watch a lot of college basketball. I was in a hospital with Matt Peralt, who I do the Bostonian versus the book with. He had a little stint. He had to stay there. So we just watch basketball. The things you can see when you're watching basketball are amazing, but the things you can't see is what you see in the lines, right? You see a lot of home dogs in February. There's a lot of good teams laying short number points on the road, second time through conference matchups. That's what's going forward this week and next week, right? As we wrap up and head to the conference tourneys. When you look at the lines daily, are you looking for anything in particular? Like, because there's so many games, right? And people ask me, well, how do you bet college basketball? First of all, that's a very general question that I can't answer with one answer. So what do you like to look at? Do you like to look at size? Do you like to look at totals? You're a Big 12 guy. Kansas put up 100 points last night. 100 points in a college basketball game. That's a lot. For people that don't know, that is a lot of points. But Kansas is a team that I don't want to back in March. I don't think that they're championship. I mean, they can make a run. And these top 8 teams, 10 teams, they can all get to the Final Four. I just think when Kansas needs a bucket, I don't know who they go to. So
yeah, so they're a good
lot of
question.
questions there. That was a horrible way of asking a question, but I'm trying. Just pick whatever you want and just start talking.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about Kansas because I think I'm higher on them than most, and I certainly get where you're coming from. I mean, they have had their struggles in March comparative to where their seed is every year, so I get that. But man, I really like them, Dave. And to answer your question, who do they go to when they need a bucket? Ochai Agbaji is going to be possibly Big 12 Player of the Year, might be a National Player of the Year candidate, although I think Oscar gets him. I mean, he's a create off the dribble. He can hit a three. He can get to the bucket. They've got multiple guys that can do a lot of things. I think they can guard when they need to, although if you listen to Bill Self and you listen to the Kansas folks, they talk about how this Kansas defense is not what it normally is. But, man, I've watched it shut down some Big 12 opponents this year. I think Kansas is pretty good, and they're right on the edge of the model, and I'll get to that here in a minute. When you look at Ken Palm's over the course of the last 2 decades, the national champion comes from a pretty select group that you can find in the Ken Palm rating. So we'll start to talk about that over the next couple of weeks. I like Kansas a lot. The Big 12 team that I think you better be aware of is Baylor, the defending national champs.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Texas Tech.
No, and we'll get to Texas Tech. I like them a lot too, but they scare me. Now, I think what you just said about Kansas applies to Texas Tech. When they need a basket and when they need offense, where do they go? Now, we like defense traveling in the tournament, but what gets you in trouble? Because I've seen this too from a West Virginia perspective in the Press Virginia days. What gets defensive teams physical, grinding, get in your face and grab you defensive teams come tournament? it's different officiating crews.
Oh,
And the
yeah, when they call too
inconsistency
many
with how
fouls.
it is called. And I remember going in with Coach Beeline. We always used to think, oh man, let's get out of the Big East here because they're forearm checking you on the cutter. You can't run motion offense. People are grabbing you, and the Big East refs won't call it. You get in the tournament, get a Pac-12 crew, get a West Coast crew, and they're going, what are you doing? You can't grab people like that. And West Virginia under Beeline would move forward. When you were with Huggins press Virginia teams, we would say, hey, refs, turn a blind eye, don't look. Let us grab, let us collect. So some of that comes in. Texas Tech is going to get up on you. They're going to be physical. The officiating crew in the Texas Tech games come March are going to make a huge difference for them. Well, anyway, I'm sorry, real quick, back to Baylor. Baylor has the metrics right now in Ken Palm that fit the criteria for a national championship team. They concern me, though. It's a little bit under the radar. The injury to their big guy, and I'll butcher the name, so my apologies, nicknames Everyday John. Chenawa Chachawa. John Chenawa Chachawa. I'm in the ballpark. I don't think I have it. Well, you don't know the name. That's why you think that's pretty good. I think I'm way off. See, you just don't know if I'm right.
You're
so
right.
I said it smoothly.
Sounded good.
So you think I'm right. Yeah, I'm not even close. That's the old neighborhood play, Dave, from baseball. I was about 3 feet away from the bag, but we got rang him up. I went ahead and threw it to first. Let's just move on. He's a massive loss for them. He's sustained a knee injury, and he's going to be out. I think that changes that team significantly. So just buyer beware on Baylor as we get here into March.
Yeah, that was funny because I was watching that game the other night, and I'm watching it against Oklahoma State, I think it was. They were 4-point favorites to close, 4.5. And I was like, I don't want to lay that on the road. And I'm watching the game, and they're down. And it was -1.5 plus 130. It was weird. I was like, either this line's wrong or I'm betting it, because very rarely you get to lay 1.5, take plus 130. So I think maybe the guy flipped it that was doing the in-game. I don't know, but I bet it. And I had to sweat it. And then it went to overtime, and I had to sweat it. And then Baylor got up 2, and Oklahoma State had a shot to tie a win, and it rimmed out, and I won. And I was like, oh, buckle up. Here comes March. I mean, this basketball betting will give you some ups, downs, sweats. Like if you really need some juice, like my buddy Kevin Walsh likes to say on Sportsbook, he calls it, this game has juice. These games have everything. We just saw it last night. You mentioned UConn and Villanova.
Yeah, fun game.
Fun game. Not unbelievable game, right? Fun basketball game. Comes down to a blocker charge at the end. And Rex Chapman does a great thing on the Twitter. Is it a blocker charge? I watched it 10 times. I think 5 times it's a block, 5 times it's a charge. I'm not sure. I mean, Gillespie does that a lot. He takes it to the hole and gets to the foul line. But Villanova, you want to talk about a team that I think is March ready? That team, despite all their injuries and things like that, they got a lot of senior leadership. You hear this all the time, how guard play wins in March. Guard play wins in the tournament. Do you abide by that rule? Are you looking for teams with good guards here, like this week, next week, as they get into conference tournaments? Is that a huge key, or is that just media speak for we really don't know shit? We're just going to say this.
No, I mean, yes, I like that. And I think, listen, I think college basketball can be guard heavy at times, right? Because what happens generally, we spend more time on defense than we do offense. The offense can look ugly. If you watch college basketball consistently and watch any kind of NBA, it's like 2 different games. The offense can disappear a ton. And, last night, for just a second here, that UConn Villanova game, couple quick notes. First of all, just a fun college basketball game as we get near March. The old Hartford Civic Center, now the XL Center, was absolutely popping. Right. That was one of the moves. I give UConn credit. That was one of the rare conference realignment moves that has really worked. Them getting back to their roots and saying, you know what, football's not working. Get it out of here. We'll figure that out. We're going back to the Big East, and we want to play in games like they had last night. That crowd was hopping. It was ready to go. Danny Hurley's absolutely insane. They need to get a Hurley cam on the sideline. I mean, he's nuts. He gets run, although I think unjustly. He's kind of getting the crowd fired up. That was a weird call. But some of that too. Here's what I also think, Dave. Be careful of this. This is what happens these last couple weeks in these big games. Those couple of calls late, the block charge, okay, that's kind of a flip a coin. If you would have called that a block, I could have seen that. Gillespie kind of went off to the side of the defender right there. Could have been either way. But right before that, Gillespie got tied up in the backcourt. That was a clear foul. I mean, I think there's
mugging. That
I mean,
wasn't a jump ball.
they showed the replay. I mean, he's around his arm on the side, and the crowd's going nuts, and the officials are going nuts. And sometimes I think they're human. They get hung up in the emotion of that. That was a missed call that if you're holding a Villanova, as some in the Northeast call it, Villanova ticket, that hurts you there now. That hurts you.
Hurts you.
Get the. I mean, listen, ref in college basketball is a hard job. I don't need to get on here and scream. They're easy targets. They're trying their best. We have an official shortage around the country, so I don't need to pile on. But man, there were a couple late calls that if you're holding a ticket on one of those sides, look out on that one.
Yeah, it is a hard job. I mean, and I mean, I'm coaching the kids, and it's hard to get umpires to do high school and all kinds of stuff because of the chirping and because of the backlash and the stuff you got to take. Refereeing basketball at the speed that they're going and stuff, it is not an easy gig. It's very difficult. Those games decided by the foul call or no call, though, those leave a mark in the book. People used to get mad in the book. You guys knew. I mean, the game fell too. Yesterday was 22-22. The line on the game was UConn -2. The game fell 2. He had a free throw to make it fall 3, and he threw it off the back of the rim because there were 0.2 of a second left on the clock, and he knew that there was not time. So you want to talk about deuces wild. The kids always go deuces. They tell me that on the way out the door, as they make a play in the field, they always give me the deuces. Like, okay, I see you deuces. Crazy how that happens. So like the Big Ten, I mean, that's going back to, your roots in Iowa basketball. Iowa looks like they can fill it up. I'm not sure about them going forward in March, but Purdue has arguably their best team that they've had in a while, and they've had good teams. This team looks like, I mean, they're near the top of the odds as far as winning it all. Do you make Purdue a viable, not only Big Ten champ and looking at winning conferences and things like that? Can they win a national title?
It's a good question and certainly valid given that offense and their roster makeup. Jaden Ivey's about as good as they get nationally. -280 on DraftKings right now to win the Big Ten. So I don't think you can touch that. I think they're a lock. They've won 9 of 10. But here's something again, the tournament is all about matchups. So you're going to have 10 to 12 teams that fit the parameters that can win a national title. And then it's just simply what is their road to the Final Four when it comes out on Selection Sunday, and then who gets cleared out of the path to get there. So it's really hard. I mean, as hard as futures are in any sport, I think college basketball, it's just simply impossible. I think you take a couple flyers, and then once you get in the tournament, you start rolling. Purdue, though, Dave, here's the thing with them. It's the opposite of what we just talked about with Texas Tech. Their offense is elite. Purdue's number 1 in KenPom right now. But defensive efficiency, 114 nationally.
Oh, that's not
114 nationally. So as I sit here today, I was just starting to look on DraftKings this morning about odds to make the Final Four. +220 for Purdue to make the Final Four. I'm not touching that. With that defensive efficiency, I don't like that. Now, maybe they get an easy path. Maybe they can just outscore people. But that generally is not the formula to a national championship in college basketball. It needs to be a team that is fairly balanced. Top 15 in both offense and defensive efficiency in KenPom is where your champion comes from. 17 of the last 19 years. So if you're looking ahead and want to play some futures.
So wait a second. So wait, you said 17 of the last 19 years, there's a metric that measures that was the national champ. Top 15 in offense and top 15 in defense efficiency?
Yes, in the KenPom rating. So I will give you a couple of those teams now, and you tell me if it fits.
Give me all of them right now, so we have
right.
so the people have them. Come on.
Here we go. You ready?
Yeah, let's go.
Gonzaga.
Man,
Kentucky. Kentucky. Now, Well, let me give you the ones that fit, and then we'll go back and look at the
Okay.
outliers, because
All
there's
right,
a
go
couple outliers. And again, there's a couple weeks left, so this will still change. This is as we record. What's today? 23rd of Feb. 23rd of Feb.
22. Yeah.
Okay, Arizona, which I think is super intriguing. Man, they are fun to watch, and they've got dudes, but they've got a first-year head coach. But Arizona fits the model.
Okay.
Baylor fits the model, but this is where we talked about the model is taking into effect a full roster for a lot of their year, or at least a big part of their roster. They've had backcourt injuries as well. Kansas, no, outside the model. Texas Tech, no. Houston fits the model. They're going to be they're right on the edge. 14 in offense, 15 defensively.
Wow.
We're gonna have to talk about them. They made that deep run last year, right? Got to a Final Four, but you're going to be back to the same question with Gonzaga. Their strength of schedule. We'll get into them. Here's another one. Just on the outside, if you're looking for top 20, that's a good model as well, but not top 15. Auburn, just outside. They meet it in defense. They just are outside the top 15 at number 16 in offense. How about this one? I think this is a sneaky one. UCLA.
Oh,
they slide in here. Last year in the final game, national championship game, all those guys coming back, a lot of hype, but I feel like they're under the radar a little bit. But UCLA is one to keep an eye on.
Yep.
And Dave, there's your list. I mean, that's your list. That's your list right now. Gonzaga, Arizona, Houston, UCLA. There's your list in the top 15.
That's crazy because there's a lot of good teams in the Big 12 that aren't on that list. The SEC, obviously, with not just Kentucky, but Auburn, Bama, Tennessee, the Big Ten. The Big Ten always makes waves and has a lot of teams in the tournament, but they don't make runs. Wisconsin comes to mind. Michigan State, I don't think is right. They don't look, they just don't have really, their offense goes in lulls for minutes at a time.
Okay, hold on. Let's expand that. I actually screwed that up a little bit. Big shocker.
You did?
Yeah.
What'd you do?
So it's 17 of the 19 are in the top 20 on each metric. 14 of the last 19 have been in the top 15. So still kind of holds. So Auburn technically gets into that top 20 on both. Yes. Okay. Now here's the ones that are right on the edge that would make some sense.
Say Providence.
Well, I'm going to get to Providence.
Providence is good.
Nor do the computers. Duke sits 10 in offense, 22 in defense.
Okay.
So they're right there. So that certainly wouldn't be one, especially in a Coach K final swan song. Will he get a couple calls when you need it? Again, all due respect to the officials. Is there some calls maybe that go your way? Kentucky. And I like Kentucky, man, but Ty Washington's got to be healthy. But fourth offensively, 21st defensively. You have what could be the National Player of the Year in Oscar that's a beast on the glass. Keep him out of foul trouble. I like Kentucky a lot. So, I think your teams there that we're mentioning are your obvious contenders. You said Tennessee, 32nd offensively, 4th defense, but the offense isn't there. Villanova that we just talked about, 6 offense, 30 defensively. Texas is a team that's starting to get it together with all those transfers. First year, Chris Beard, first year at Texas.
Great coach.
35th on the offensive side. They sometimes bog down there, but they're 10th defensively. So those are your teams that are kind of sneaking around a little bit there.
Why don't you say where's Providence? Why don't the computers like Providence?
Hold on. Let me excuse me just a second while I scroll. I've got to keep scroll. Hold on one second. Can you talk? You said Providence, sir. You want Providence out of the Big East? Ed Cooley doing a great job. You want to hold on? I got to scroll down here.
They could win their first Big East title.
Hold on. Click tab. Scrolling? Click tab. Next page. Hold on here. And listen, I love the folks in Providence. Spend a lot of time in the Big East, so don't be tweeting at me. I'm just the messenger.
Howe 07, by the way.
Just telling you what the computers say. This isn't my take. But how about Providence? They really are interesting. All they do is win. If you look at the Ken Pom chart, there's just green everywhere. 3 losses to Virginia, Marquette, and Villanova. Those are pretty good losses.
Pretty good basketball teams.
But in the computer, 40th. Offensively, efficiency 40th, defense 67. Defense 67, Dave.
So in the book, you hear that term, this team's a fraud. This team is not good. You hear this all the time. There's a new thing called the luck factor. Talk about numbers guys and all these analytics things taking over. There's a luck factor in basketball. I don't know how it's measured because apparently all the good teams are lucky and all the bad teams are unlucky. But that's a whole different story. Is Providence for real? Is this a team that you automatically maybe gets, if they win the Big East, let alone win the Big East championship? But apparently the team that wins the regular season doesn't win the tournament. Keep that in mind too, because you can bet who's going to win the tournament once it's decided where the seeds are. Is this a team you're looking to fade or are you looking to kind of back? Because I think if they win the Big East, they're going to be seeded maybe a little bit higher than their numbers would indicate the computer. And that might be a go against. Or are we hoping that Villanova can win the Big East and keep Providence under the radar for us guys that like to maybe sneak in there and bet maybe they'll be a dog instead of a favorite, or maybe getting more points instead of, short numbers.
Couple things. As someone holding a Villanova to win the Big East regular season,
Sorry,
I hope. Hey, Ed Cooley, you've done a great job. Can you lay down for a couple games here? I want to cash that ticket. Here's what I would look at. Here's one of the things that jumps out with Providence, and I'll just start doing some deeper dives. If you remember from last year, Dave, on Game Within the Game, we did some real intense, deep dive, deep analytic matchups.
We did.
It comes, pick and roll rate and who's the pick and roll man and how do they match up against unguarded shots. I'll give you all that as we get into March Madness. The one thing that jumps out number-wise for me with Providence, and listen, they've beaten some good teams. They beat Texas Tech this year. They beat Connecticut earlier this year. They've got Seton Hall. They do have some wins on here. Here's what I look at, though. One of the things, what did we just talk about officiating? And I didn't mean to turn this into an officiating podcast, but it has become one because it matters so much in college basketball.
Yes.
As you get in the tournament, Providence is 9th right now in offensive free throw rate, 9th nationally, meaning they get to the free throw line a lot and score a bunch of their points from the free throw line.
I love that for March. That's a good thing, right? That's a good measure.
I don't know. Is it? It's good when you're a small. I like that stat. I go to that a lot. If you're a small favorite during the regular season, especially at home, I love teams that are high in free throw rate as short favorites at home, figuring they're going to be in the lead, get fouled late, get to the line, make some free throws. But is it in March? What did I just say about the variance between officiating crews? If you rely too heavily on the free throw, what if you get a crew that's not calling it, that lets it play? So just one thing to keep in mind. They don't do anything else, again, via the computer. They don't do anything else that absolutely wows you. They're consistently solid. And again, the most important thing, they just win games. So we're going to have to watch them on a matchup by matchup basis. Just overall, very 50,000 foot level. I think relying on free throw rate come tournament times might scare me a little bit.
Does free throw rate measure whether they make them a lot? Or do they so it just measures that they get to the free throw line?
Yes. Yeah. Do you want to know if they make it?
How important is it to be a team that makes more free throws or is a really good free throw shooting team? Like when you shot free throws, you were a basketball player. What'd you shoot from the line? You were probably about an 85%er.
Yeah, I was good. I could shoot the free throws.
Okay.
Yes.
It's important. You got to make the free throws, especially when you have a lead, especially if we're looking to bet a team. We got to cover this number sometimes with the favorite. You're laying 5 and you're missing free throws and let a team back in the back door and they lose by 3. You don't cover. So do you look at teams' free throw success rate, what they're shooting from the free throw line when you're looking to make plays in February and March?
Sure. And Providence is okay in that area. They're top 150 in free throw percentage, 73%. So certainly not the best in the country, but not the worst. But here's the other part. Now you need to dig down to the next layer. Okay, that's their team percentage. But now dig into the next layer and see who's taking the free throws. Because if you're a team that relies on your big guys getting hammered, I watched this with West Virginia the last couple of years when they had Oscar Tshiebwe and Derek Culver, guys that were getting clubbed inside, getting to the line, but Culver couldn't shoot free throws very well most nights. So the team percentage was down because your guys at the line were big guys. So just Providence real quick, and then we can move on to the next subject here. But the guy that shoots the most free throws for them by a wide margin, Al Durham, is a 6'4" guard. He's a shooter. He's one of the best shooters in the country from the line at 85%. He has 170 attempts. Their next closest guy is at 106. and then
Whoa.
it really falls off the table. So for them, it's been 2 guys shooting it. The second guy I just mentioned, Nate Watson's a big guy. He's 6'10". He's just averaging 60% at the line. And he's a guy that he gets fouled a bunch. So one of their guys that shoots a bunch is a 6'10" guy. You would think there's going to be some variance. So is it Durham or Watson that gets to the line more often? And again, I didn't mean to take you all the way down in the weeds there, but those are a couple of the layers that you start to look at. And that's why I say you've got to take a team like Providence game by game when it gets in the tournament.
You got to take a team like Providence because sometimes there's magic. There's just magic in March. And I mean, think about Loyola Chicago and Sister Jean. They probably computer probably didn't like them either. All they did was win, and all they did was get to the Final Four. And believe me, people were caught up in it. People were dressing like Sister Jean coming to the book to bet them. Like it was nuts how that thing kind of got some momentum. So don't be afraid sometimes to ignore the analytics, ignore the computers, and just ride a hot wave and a hot team.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Now we're still open for the Dunkin' Donuts sponsorship and the Providence Convention and Visitors Bureau. Thanks to you. They're going to be mad at me. I was just reporting the facts. You brought it back around. Still alive for sponsorship from the wonderful Greater Providence area. Wonderful seafood there in Providence. Thank you.
I mean, we got to keep it alive here. We got a lot of people listening and watching the show. Again,
They're
thank you.
15-1 to make the Final Four. You want it?
15-1 to make the Final Four. So these bets, I get asked that all the time too. How do you bet this thing now? I need to wait for the bracket. I need to see the path. I'm okay with building a portfolio. And I got bad guys that have been building a portfolio. They'll have 10 teams to win it all. They have prices that don't exist. They have Auburn at 70-1. They have Texas Tech at 200-1. They're hoping to hit one. They're hoping to get 2 in the Final Four. They're hoping to get 4 in the Sweet 16. So then they can work off of it. They don't have to win any of them. They just have working portfolios with big prices. They start firing darts. I remember when Obi Toppin was on what team in college?
Dayton. That'd be the Flyers, Dave. The Flyers.
Thank you, sir. The Dayton Flyers, people were betting them in the summer at 250-1. I'm like, why are these guys betting the Dayton Flyers? Have no idea. Moved it down. The only thing that stopped the Dayton Flyers was COVID. That was when the tournament got canceled.
They were loaded that year.
Yeah, they were very loaded, and they were doing a lot of things that maybe computers weren't understanding, but they had a good coach. They had Obi Toppin just came out of nowhere, and I kept saying, how do you say his name? I finally got it right when it came February, and then March stopped everything. So you may not be able to pronounce the names. You may not even know their actual nickname, the team nickname. If you don't, just tweet it, Brad, because he knows them all, apparently. But you can find all this out as you go. There's a lot of betting opportunities. You mentioned the West. We'll move on to hockey if you have any hockey next. But
yes,
Arizona, UCLA have been playing games out west. Not a lot of people have been seeing them play. When they played head to head, UCLA won at home. Arizona won at home. Watch the Pac-12 tournament, which is held here in Vegas. I'm hopefully going to head down there, maybe take the Consigliere kids and go watch some basketball. But those West Coast teams, a lot of times they get seeded either too high. Arizona could be a 1 seed if they win this thing.
Yeah.
And go against, or a team like UCLA plays from the play-in game. They were the play-in game last year and got to the Final Four. Keep an eye on them going forward. I just wanted to mention that before we move on. What else you got?
Yeah, and they're 2 of the teams that we mentioned that fit the criteria on both. And listen, you know what UCLA is athletically. Arizona, man, they've got dudes.
Oh yeah,
they've got dudes. So it's just simply inexperience with them. Tommy Lloyd's their first-year head coach, done a great job. He'll be in the National Coach of the Year discussion. Came from Gonzaga, so yeah, they're certainly a team to watch as we move forward. The one last I'll mention, and we'll move on to hockey. We've got a couple more weeks to do this. Arkansas is intriguing. You talk about a team that's smoking hot right now. 14-1 to make the Final Four, have won 12 of 13. Eric Musselman doing a great job. He's got that team playing. They don't fit the national championship criteria, but a team that could wreak some havoc there come bracket time. So
good
Arkansas,
defense,
somebody to mention.
Good defense, offensively challenged, right?
That's it.
The kind of the mold for Arkansas.
Yep.
Okay.
That's it. All right. You want me to hit you with some quick hockey?
Yeah, let's swinging around the ice a little bit because a lot of people have been, but with PSU's autos help, he's done a great job with this. There's been first periods, there's been goal in the first 10-minute bets, there's been crazy what's going on in NHL. There were 2 games yesterday that were sevens for totals. Well, the Florida game should have been. It was only one book that decided to put that one on 7. But Florida scores goals. Toronto was another one. There were just games that, I don't know. It seems easy right now betting hockey, but tell me why it either is or isn't.
Well, you mentioned PSU Otto on Twitter has been great, so helpful in putting together the first period overs and unders, the streaks, the first goal in the first 10, yes or no. Been fantastic, and that's been working. I mean, if you follow some of those trends, look who the matchups are. It has been working. The challenge is, we always say, the juice is outrageous, right? So you talk about having to hit, normally, what do you say? 53% at 110 is the way to go. I mean, I had 3 last night. I hit 2 of the 3 in hockey, but the juice was so outrageous, I just broke even. Yeah. I mean, 67% on getting them right, but just barely broke even, a little bit over. So you got to watch out. Here's 3 I want to throw at you real quick for Thursday. Coming up this Thursday, if you want to follow some of these trends. Okay. Yep. Here we go. First, Columbus at Florida. You just mentioned the Panthers. Columbus on a 25-6 goal in the first 10 run. 25-6, yes, goal in the first 10. Florida counters, Dave, with a 17-4 run on the yes goal in the first 10. The juice is going to be outrageous. How about first period?
Outrageous meaning minus
200. Yeah, it'll be minus 200. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep,
absolutely. Florida 17-4 run over 1.5 first period. Florida. So as you would expect, right? I mean, these are the two top scoring teams in the NFL here, or in the NHL.
Yeah, sorry, football's on the mind for everybody. It's okay.
On this one, does first period over start right at 2? We won't even see a 1.5 here, will we? Will it go right to 2?
This was an argument I used to have in the room. Just make it 2. If we push, we push. We can't win on the 1.5. Nobody likes to lay the juice on 1.5 if you got to lay 200. Make it 2 over minus 120 or under minus 120 and see what happens. If it's 1-1 or 2-0, we push. So what? Give the money back. I'd rather do that on this situation because the number can only be 1.5 or 2 in the first period. It can't be a half because that's the line on a team to win or lose. And it can't be 3, although sometimes you wonder if it should because these teams are not playing out defense and are scoring a lot of goals. But when it can only be 1.5 or 2, just make it 2 and make it fun. Like, seriously, you do a lot of bets. Is it fun ever? Even when you win, when you got minus 200 on the ticket?
It ain't fun. I mean, I like to hit. You like to be right. You like to win. But, man, when you start adding it up and God gets 2 out of 3, 67. What do you mean I made $4? What are you talking about here?
Newbie, you bet. You like to do football teasers and stuff because it's cost effective. But do you like laying, even when you win, 200 on anything?
I am one of the most juice adverse bettors you're going to find. I feel like that's what a lot of recreational bettors fall into, is anything over 140, unless I can make a real case for it, I would rather just pass, Dave. So,
right.
So I'm not a guy who's going to lay 20 to win 10. That's just not
that's good. You two don't need to, because I'm over here just taking it all. I just take Ruby's juice, I take your juice, and I say, give it to me, and I'll hit it 73%, and I'm up a half a unit on the year. Thank you.
That's how B Howe stays so fit. All he eats is chalk. Like
that's juicer.
That's why he's so fit, man.
Bring it on. Juice. Chalk and juice.
DraftKings, what's that you say? Minus 220 on goal in first 10? Yeah, go ahead. Bring it on over here.
That's what we need.
Come on.
We need a juice cleanse. Aaron Rodgers just talked about taking a 12-day cleanse. He told McAfee on the show. We need a juice cleanse for you. This is unbelievable. All right, go ahead. What else you got?
Two. I got 2 quick ones, and I got to get you out of here real quick. Your New Jersey Devils are back in action. We've been loving them on their run. Man. They continue 21-3, yes, goal in the first 10. 21-3 run.
21-3?
But you tell me this. You got to make the call here. They're playing truly your Pittsburgh Penguins
on
Thursday.
Oh, the Penguins are Low,
9-3 to the under first period.
Yes.
So I gave you two different ones. I gave you yes, goal in the first 10, but Pitt's an under first period team here. Do I have to stay away from this one?
Do you remember the movie Ghostbusters?
Sure.
This is crossing the streams. All right.
Yeah.
We're crossing the streams right here.
Yeah. So that's a stay away, probably.
It's a stay away or it's a bet under. I like when these, you can't do it. See, like you look at your reaction right away. You're gonna get the plus money on the under.
What?
And you have to sit there and watch nothing happen. It's hard. You think the sweat is real betting over the first period, bet under and try that and sit and watch a hockey game and watch 3 power plays be called. The officials are, putting guys in a box. You get through 1 power play. You're like, oh, okay. All right, good. Oh no.
Hockey unders hurt. I mean, listen, I've said it again. I have worked at West Virginia while Bob Huggins is there. I cover West Virginia now on a daily basis. Have you watched West Virginia play offense over the years? I'm all in on unders. If you want to lay some bricks and miss shots and I can do that. But hockey unders, man, you are sweating things. They're firing shots. Oh, okay. Last one. Then you got to go. Last one. Dallas at Nashville. Also, these are 3 Thursday games for you if you want to check these out. Preds are on a 17-4 yes, goal in the first 10 run. Dallas at Nashville, goal in the first 10, yes, 17-4 run. There you go. There's 3 hockey games to watch.
Dallas, though, is probably more of an under team.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
The first one's the slam dunk. We're getting in. We might have to parlay in a little bit. Can I parlay in some college basketball or something?
Yeah, there's a ton of college games on Thursday that you can look at. And then, don't forget, the NBA comes back on Thursday. The NBA has been gone for a week. How they took a week off for the All-Star break. It used to be the weekend. Now it's the NBA All-Star week. Did you watch the game?
I did, because I'm a sucker for that. I just like I'm a former marketing guy. So the event stuff for me is great. I love the event stuff. Here's what's weird about that. We'll do more NBA next week. I had some stuff, but we got to get moving. Here's what's amazing. I'm old enough. You're old enough to remember. Newbie's not. Old enough to remember when the All-Star break was the midpoint of the season.
Yep.
Not now where there's 21 to 25 games left, depending on the team. It's really amazing. Football got pushed so late, everybody trying to stay away from the behemoth that is the NFL. And now you're in the stretch run here, right? Yeah. Welcome everybody that's watching college basketball. We've got 3 regular season games left, and NBA fans, you're down to your final month. Here we go.
Yep. And it's going to be an interesting, both the play in to get to be one of the 8 is going to be interesting because teams like the Lakers are down there, popular teams, as well as the Western Conference. Between Phoenix being the best basketball team, but Chris Paul being out 6 to 8 weeks.
Yes.
Talk about an adjustment being made in both betting and making the numbers. That's going to be interesting to see. Are they a fade immediately out of the chute, or do they adjust knowing he's not going to play and hold on to that number 1 seed and continue to cover and be the best 4th quarter team in basketball? Golden State.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, no. What were you going to say?
Well, I was gonna flip you over to the East and say, interesting on DraftKings this morning, Miami, the favorite in the East, minus 110. That surprised me a little bit there.
Right. And so you have them who, you want to talk about a team that, Jimmy Butler's a star and everything, but they're a true, and Bam is really good too, but they're a team that's interesting because they do a lot of the dirty work, they play defense. And in the NBA, totals are starting to fly over. It's become a 3-point shooting contest, and nobody wants to bet that team. So between them and the Bulls, people are overlooking them for the Bucks. And then, oh, by the way, the Sixers, who we talk about every week on the Cash Considerations podcast with me, Newbie, and Carl. We play the song. James Harden is going to make his debut. The beard, his beard is okay. Your beard is just, you got this thing tight this week.
Getting there.
Goodness gracious.
A little different color than Harden's. I would like to have his coloration. Mine's not, I'm a little more Santa-ish.
He dyes that shit.
He dyes that thing. No question.
Oh, it looks good. I might have to go that route.
But
unfortunately, there's too much video with white, though. I can't dye it now. It's already out.
Right. Well, you can. You change it up. We can change things up. That's what
Hey,
we're
real
doing
quick
here.
in the East, let me give you the last thing in the East, and then seriously, you got to get out of here. You got stuff, you got people calling, you got meetings.
I don't. The call's been pushed back, so we're good to go.
Oh, good. Keep talking.
Yeah.
Five teams within 2.5 games of that number 1 seed in the East. So the East
Insane.
is still very much wide open, obviously.
Very much wide open. And I think, I mean, going forward, for futures, it's crazy. You change the prices every day. It's one of the most fun things that I did in the book was you have the volatility and the flexibility to change the prices on the futures, both conference and NBA finals, because so many teams can win it right now. So you get somebody walks in, from Milwaukee, wants to bet the Bucks, fire away. Somebody comes in from Boston, wants to bet the Celtics, sure, load up. So you have all kinds of different things. The East is all over the place. The West is Phoenix, Golden State, and Memphis. Memphis Grizzlies are right there. John Morant, fun basketball team to watch. I think, how would you say in the market, like you're looking at the numbers and stuff too, like me, I don't think the market has caught up with Memphis. I think they're one of the best teams in the league against the number. I don't think when they're favored, a lot of times they're undervalued. And I think they're dogs. They're getting more points than they should at times. Am I missing it, or am I kind of overestimating it? Because I really enjoy watching John Morant and that team play basketball.
Boy, he's so fun to watch. What do you do with them, though? I mean, you're talking about the Chris Paul thing was such a bombshell on All-Star Weekend for a team
Yeah,
that's running away with the West right now with the experience. Golden State's going to be super popular, as we know, with Steph. Utah, and then Memphis is 11-1 right now on DraftKings to win the West.
Yeah.
11-1. I mean, you've said this before. We've talked about this before. There's got to be some growing pains associated with getting through, right?
Yep.
It just doesn't feel. I mean, if you tell me John Morant takes that team on a run, okay, I could buy that. Picking them to win that conference, coming through those teams, they're not ready to do that yet, are they? I mean, now
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
doing
think
what you just said. I mean, maybe I'm underestimating them, but having to get through on that kind of the first time you make it deep, that seems like a little too much to ask.
It never happens in the NBA. It never happens. I mean, it happened. Do you remember when Dallas won the championship? I mean, the Mavericks, got there, found their way through, and it doesn't happen. So it's something to keep, watching as we go forward day to day. And again, follow the show, follow us on the Twitter, and we'll continue to do that.
But jump back over to the East. Okay, jump back over to the East for a second, real quick.
Yep.
Because what do you do there? I told you Miami's the favorite to get the 1 seed, but Brooklyn is the favorite to win the East.
Brooklyn's always the favorite. It's ridiculous. Carl says hashtag anybody but the Nets on the Cash Considerations podcast.
I mean, do you take newbie Sixers? I mean, do you figure that
I-
Harden will be motivated down the stretch and those two can play together? Can Harden and Embiid play together?
Right? He better be is right. Newbie went to the game against the Celtics.
And they got beat by 300, right?
And never again,
300.
Howe.
So he ain't allowed to go no more. He ain't allowed to go. I mean, this was a Valentine's Day present. Him and the girlfriend went down and, went to the game. They lost by 48 points.
Yeah, forced
The
us to
next
break up. No good. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, that's a November college basketball game, newbie. What are you doing there in an NBA game?
I don't know. I thought, happy Valentine's Day. Not the greatest token of our love, B-Howe.
Then they go and they win on the road as 6.5 or 7-point dogs at Milwaukee Thursday, the day before the All-Star break. So capable of it. Noobs, are you on them? I know you're holding a ticket on Embiid to win the MVP.
Yeah, I can't. The East is so mucky right now. I think you pick maybe a couple of these top teams and sprinkle, an equal unit size on all of them, because I think everybody's live. I mean, even look at what the Celtics were able to do, and now they're 4.5 games back. So I think the East is full of landmines. So I wouldn't really feel confident putting all of my stock in one team with how the East is currently constructed, in my opinion.
Definitely. Well, it's good stuff, and this is what we're going to continue to do, at least as we run through the Final Four and get to the end of the tournament right here on 8 in the Box, the college basketball / NBA basketball / NHL hockey edition of this show. The the last question I have for you boys before we go. The NBA All-Star weekend was awesome. There was a lot of like the Rising Stars thing I thought was fantastic on Friday night. 2 games to 50, winners stay, play to 25. Felt very old school, but new school. That was fun. Then there was the skills challenge and the three-point shootout. The dunk contest has to go. Done with the dunk contest. I used to love the dunk contest. Now I can't stand it. It's cringe, like the kids say. Not worth watching, and they dunk it too many times. They can't get it dunked down. But they settle the rookie skills, the skills challenge with a three-point shot. Okay, that's how the winner wins it. How fast do you make a three-point shot? They put a minute on the clock. The first team, Mobley made a three-pointer in 9 seconds. It was his first attempt. Then Cade Cunningham stepped up, and on the second shot, 3 seconds into the clock, sinks a half-court shot. Be how you're second. Newbie, can you make a three-point shot if you give yourself 10 minutes? Will you make a three-point shot?
10 minutes, maybe, just by the happenstance it would be able to drop in if it's a high school 3. An NBA 3, God, I'll be looking like Spice Adams, and people can look that one up. No good, Dave. Like we said at the top of the show, good bookend. I ain't a distant shooter. Get me under the boards, baby.
B. Howe, you're the shooter of the crew. I give you the ball. I know I put you at the top of the three-point circle. I know you're going to make a bucket in a minute. I drift you back to the half-court circle. Are you making a shot if I give you 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Are you making a shot?
I want to say yes.
Okay.
I want to say yes. Now, so here's the caveat. I need how long do I have to make the half-court shot?
I give you 10 minutes. Put 10 minutes.
Okay. I need an equal amount of time to get loose. Otherwise, we got a rotator cuff issue. So if I can have 10 to loosen and then 10 to make it, I'm in. I take the bet.
There. I'll give you all the time you need in the warm-up, Jim. We don't start the clock until you walk on, and I got the rack next to you, and you start chucking. I could not believe he took that ball and sank that three-point shot, turned like he knew it was Steph in the All-Star
I love that,
game.
by the way. I love Steph. I love Steph turning early. I got that. That's the new bat flip, right? And I love bat flips. If you got to throw at me next time, fine. I love a bat flip, and I love Steph turning. Can I give you one real quick thing? Can I give a shout out to somebody?
Please.
You ready?
Yeah.
My guy, Caleb Fuller, Bluefield High School, Bluefield, West Virginia. Okay.
Yeah.
I interviewed him this week earlier on in my nightly talk show. My man had one for the ages, boys. One for the ages. I said, I've played in and been around as an administrator thousands of games, maybe tens of thousands of games, never seen this.
Okay.
My man hits a 3/4 court shot at the buzzer to send a game to overtime. Awesome. Okay, great. We've seen that before, but really good. Right. Caught it, turns 3/4 court, chucks it, count it. It's good. We go to overtime. In the overtime session, inbound the ball, tie game. He catches it, a few dribbles, right across half court, 1 foot across half court, lets it fly, count it, wins the game. He sends it to OT on a 3/4, wins it on a half. An incredible night. Caleb Fuller, Bluefield High School. Congratulations again. Caleb, awesome night. Never seen that.
That's a walk-off right there. I mean, what do you add to that? Newbie's doing high school basketball games. You're doing high school basketball games, talking about this. I'm just enjoying the whole thing. That's what we do here. It's 8 in the Box. For the boys, he's Dan Alexander. Follow him on the Twitter at Newbie Talks. I'm going to call you the guard. How about that? We're just going to call you, because you ain't a point guard, you ain't a shooting guard, but you kind of got the ball in your hands and know when to back and forth. He's Brad Howe at Brad Howe 07. Myself, Dave Sharapan, the Sportsbook Consigliere at Sports BK Consig on the Twitter. The show is 8 in the Box. It's on the Cash Considerations Podcast YouTube channel. It's available wherever you get podcasts. Download it, rate, review, share it with someone, and go make a 3. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Hey!